Good day to everyone. My name is Nithya Ravichandran and my metric number is 823-82327. Today, I stand in support of the argument that freedom of speech brings more good than harm. My main idea is that it promotes social justice and equality values that are fundamental for a fair and progressive society to the disadvantaged groups. Freedom of speech empowers minority groups such as the Orang Asli, refugees, and the economically disadvantaged to share their struggles and demand fair treatment. For example, activists have used this freedom to bring attention to land disputes involving neglected communities, pushing for equal solutions. Without the ability to speak freely, these issues risk being ignored, leaving the unprotected people voiceless. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Nithya. I would like to address some key points raised by Nithya. But before that, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Yauvani Saravanan, and my metric number is L23A0217. I disagree that freedom of speech gives a voice to minority groups. While it's true that freedom of speech can give minority groups a platform, but it's important to note that in practice, speech can still be restricted, particularly if it challenges the dominant political or social narrative. For example, in some cases, the government might limit public discourse on sensitive issues like land rights or refuse treatment under the guise of national security or social harmony. Thus, the idea that freedom of speech guarantees attention to these struggles is not always true, and these voices may still be suppressed or ignored in practice. Okay, well, coming to my point, in my opinion, I strongly disagree that freedom of speech brings more good than harm. In my opinion, provocative speech can incite violence. Well, public speeches or social media posts that contain inflammatory or divisive rhetoric can provoke anger among specific groups. For example, public rallies that promote extremist ideologies often lead to clashes between opposing factions, disturbing peace and causing harm to individuals and property. Well, moreover, rumors and misinformation trigger public panic, which comes from freedom of speech. When false information is shared freely, it can lead to unnecessary fear or chaos. For example, unverified news about potential natural disasters or political instability often causes mass panic, overcrowding hospitals, hoarding supplies, or even stampedes, posing risk to public safety. Well, that's all from my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Nurul and Insyirah Binti Amdifarid. My matrix number is L23A0282. So I disagree with Yauvani's point because I don't think that that should be a big problem. Because what if a bigger problem are to be sick, are to be said? That matter shouldn't affect it because it can still be avoided. We can control what we say. So, how to avoid it? Just don't say things that will provoke others, and problem will be settled. So we can still avoid it. So it shouldn't overshadow the bigger problem that are more important to be seen. So I believe that the freedom of speech give more benefit to people. Hence, I am on the agree side on the topic. Freedom of speech brings more good than harm. So I believe that the freedom of speech can maintain the democracy spirit. So freedom of speech is in the Article 10 of the Constitution of Malaysia. That means that it is a constitutional right guaranteed. So the stability of our government can be maintained by applying the freedom of speech. For an example, citizens can file complaints about things that they feel not right about to the authorities, and it will be voiced out to the higher responsible parties, and action will be taken regarding the matters, and the problem will be solved. Thus, citizens can live peacefully, and democracy can be maintained. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, I'm Insyirah. I want to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Ansar bin Muhammad Baktiar with the metric number L23A0203, and I want to disagree with the Nithya point that she said freedom of speech can give a voice to minority groups. It is because freedom of speech can also be exploited to encourage direct harm. Unrelegated speech also normalizes hate and prejudice. When hateful ideas are repeatedly without accountability, they desensitize society to discrimination and violence. This normalization creates an environment where harmful behaviors are tolerated or even celebrated. For example, casual racist jokes or stereotypes in media may seem harmless on the surface, but they contribute to systemic racism. When such a speech becomes normalized, it reinforces biases and perpetuates inequality. In turn, it creates a hostile environment where marginalized groups feel unsafe and undervalued. I want to add on my second point why I disagree with the Nithya points because it considered the case of online platforms where users call for violence against specific groups. This calls to action often translate into real-world hate uh, crimes. For like example, in some countries, anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic rhetoric has led to mob violence and destruction of communities. And that's all for me.
Ansar, I'm so sorry, but I have to disagree with your point that freedom of speech can incite violence. Because I think this risk stems not from the principle itself, but from its misuse. Effective regulation and media literacy programs can lessen these dangers without silencing essential voices. Suppressing speech is not the solution. Rather, we must empower citizens to notice facts from fiction and encourage respectful dialogue. That's all from me. What do you guys think about me? Does speech does does speech brings more good than harm or more harm than good?
Well, after all the discussion, Nithya, I have changed my mind. I strongly agree with your points and Inshara points that freedom of speech brings more good than harm.
For me, yes, after all the discussion we have been through, yes, freedom of speech can sometimes give rise to harmful or offensive opinions, but that's where counter speech comes into play. When hate speech or misinformation appears, society has right to counter it with a fact, reason, and compassion.
Okay, so to sum up, I think promoting social justice and equality requires a platform where all voices can be heard, where advocacy can thrive, and where understanding can flourish. Freedom of speech is not just a tool, but a cornerstone of any society aspiring to justice and fairness. So let us protect and celebrate this freedom, using it wisely to uplift the marginalized and unite our communities. So we have come to a conclusion that we all agree on the freedom of speech brings more good than harm. Thank you. That's all from us.
Thank you.